Law Talk with Nick Maruchak, thanks to MKI Legal, your trusted employment and family lawyers.
G'day, Nick.
Hello, Bowie.
How are you?
Great, thank you.
We had the great-granddaughter of Western Australia's first ever vexatious litigant. So Grace Barlow came on. Her great-grandmother was a fair dinkum vexatious pain in the arse by the sounds of things. 100 court actions she put in place, and they actually brought in the law because of her.
That is crazy. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how someone can find the time to go through 100 actions.
Well, mostly against her ex-husband.
She must really have hated him. He must have done a doozy on her.
Yeah, must have, I think. If you'd like to ring Nick, you can, 133 882. We'd love to hear from you. Ring in. Nick's here to help. Right through until 11 o'clock today. Chloe has called us. G'day, Chloe.
Hi, how are you going?
Good, Chloe.
I have a question for Nick. How long after the will is read does an executor have to settle everything?
So generally there's something known as the executor's year. So that will take about 12 months from the date that the person passes away. So that's the general rule of thumb. What they have to do is they have to go and do a number of things, such as collect all the assets, then pay all the creditors, do the tax returns, all that kind of stuff, and then everything left over, they can start distributing it. How long has your one been going for?
It'll be 12 months at the end of the year.
Okay, so they've still got a few more months, yeah. So in most cases, 12 months. If there's something particularly complex, then that could be extended if there's good reason. But if the executor is doing nothing at all, after 12 months, then what you can do is you can write to them and say, look, you're not discharging your duties properly. I'm considering maybe making an application to the court to have you removed. So, but yeah, give them 12 months.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chloe. Just a non-legal but a generic question about when people do pass away. Is the coroner's office aware of every single passing in WA, and they make a determination as to whether they get involved in investigating them? Is that if I heard that somewhere, is that an apocryphal tale?
So my understanding is the coroner will get involved in certain circumstances if the death is unexpected, if it's suspicious. So if a young person, say, passes away unexpectedly, they'll definitely get involved. Mm-hmm. So my understanding is the doctor will make a determination, and then if the death is predictable or not. Mm. But in every suspicious case or unexpected case, they will get involved. Yep. And there is some stuff in the law that if you do not want an autopsy done, then you can, the family can request one not to be done, and that can be considered as well.
Would that be for cultural or religious reasons, perhaps? Yep.
And, there are some extreme reasons as well. Say if someone, wants to get frozen, there are some people that do want to get their bodies frozen and shipped to America. And if you do have an autopsy, then that would damage your chances of being revived. So that's another reason some people have.
I haven't thought that far down the track, have you?
I have, yeah.
Have you? Oh, that's...
I'm considering it, yeah. There's about... Yeah, so that's why I mentioned it. It's close to home.
Lived experience. Thanks, Chloe. Good on you. If you'd like to speak to Nick Maruchak, who's thinking of getting frozen in America when he passes away, you can. Email from Alana. My neighbour's lemon tree's hanging over my fence. Am I allowed to cut the branches back myself or take the lemons, or do I need permission?
Generally, if something is hanging over your property, you can just cut them off. So that's just a well-known rule of thumb. Yeah, cut them off and take the lemons, but the lemons that are on your neighbour's side of the fence, can't touch them. That's trespassing. So yeah. Yeah,
all right. And it's a not a loophole, but it's a practice used by foragers, isn't it? So we do have foragers in our community, in our society, who wander around alleyways and grab some lemons and some mulberries, and it's a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's once it passes on public land and stuff, then you can go for it.
Yeah, all right. My neighbour has got unbelievably good frangipani trees. So I cut them off and I talk to them. I ask them and then I strike them and grow them. They're incredible. Got yellow ones, pink ones and fruit salad coloured. Work really well.
Yeah.
I'm a farmer. You're a potential frozen body revival person, and I'm a farmer.
Yeah, we have pomegranates that go across the neighbour's fence, and the neighbour definitely takes those pomegranates from time to time. I can see them missing.
Yeah. Phone in if you'd like to, 133 882. We'd love to hear from you. Ring Nick today. He's very good, very handy, and if he's not able to solve it today, he'll certainly look it up for you and get back to you. The defamation via tweets and via X and via social media posts. What have you got for us there, Nick?
So recently, earlier this month, Mark Latham, our former Prime Minister, I don't know how long.
Opposition leader, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he never became Prime Minister? He didn't.
No,
oppositionally, sorry. He was in that period where...
I think I'd remember that if he did.
There was there was a lot of changes there, but he posted a tweet, a homophobic tweet against another MP, Alex Greenwich, and the Greenwich sued him, and Latham lost his defamation case. So basically, Greenwich did make an offer to settle the case for about $20,000. Latham rejected it. Latham tried to argue that he was expressing an honest opinion. That defence failed, and Latham had to pay $140,000 damages, and he has to pay his legal costs. And that legal cost that Latham has to pay was ruled earlier today because Latham rejected that reasonable offer to settle. The legal cost that Latham could pay is expected to be about $500,000.
Oh,
so this is just a reminder to everyone that defamation can be risky. It's very expensive. If you say something to just one other person, then you can be sued in defamation. So if you say something in a WhatsApp group, even if you say something just to someone who's just sitting by, then the person can initiate defamation proceedings. They have to prove that their reputation was damaged, and the harm has to be normally has to be a statement of fact. So if you're expressing, there are some exceptions to defamation. If you're expressing a genuine held opinion, that's not an expression of fact, that may not classify as defamation, and there are a number of other defences. But it's just a reminder just to be careful when posting stuff on social media that these things can be costly.
So I didn't know this, Nick. So I could be having a conversation with someone here in the office today, and I say something defamatory, and it's not published or recorded. Wouldn't that be difficult to prove?
So if you say it in the presence of one other person, then what happens is, and the person so defamation really, the rule is say something factual, a factual statement that that person stole something or that person engaged in this malicious conduct. So if the other person finds out about it, then it can be proved, right? Because the witness can be called to court that you spoke to. They can be subpoenaed, and they'll be under oath. And if hopefully they follow the law and don't commit perjury and tell the truth. And so that it can be proved that way, right? It's definitely harder to prove verbal statements, but it's not impossible. So in that example there, the one way out is the person you defamed never finds out, right?
Yep.
But if they do find out, then that can be proved.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Nick. This one here from Jeff, it's a text message, Nick. If we made a will with a lawyer in Queensland, we now like to change it now that we live in Western Australia, is there any differences between the states that you're aware of?
No, most of the states have the same requirements, and the requirements are that you have to get it in writing, you have to have it witnessed by two people, and you have to clearly dispose of your assets when you pass away, right? That intention has to read like a will. So the laws are consistent across all of Australia, so you don't have to, as long as it was done properly by a Queensland lawyer, you should be fine. The only reason you want to change a will is obviously if you're removing executors, changing the beneficiaries, adding terms.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Well explained. G'day, Norman. How are you?
G'day, boys. My parents will be getting separated in October this year. So does he have to still pay the bills if he's living in the same house as her, or what happens there?
So are they getting divorced finally later this year, are they, Norman?
Yes.
Okay. And you want to know about the process for signing the papers? Yes, I do,
yes. So she has to pay the bills still, pay his bills. So if we go 5, he's supposed to pay his 6. He's supposed to pay his bills.
Yeah.
He's not paying towards water rates, land rates, water, gas, or electricity bills. He's refusing to pay them.
Are they still in the same house?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds a bit messy. So they must be still living together by the sound of things. Thanks, Norman. Thank you, mate. Living together, still in the same house, but he's not paying the bills because they're getting divorced. That's unusual.
Yeah, so when it comes to going through a divorce and separating your financial assets, the first step is to try and you have to divide everything that you own jointly and individually together. If you can reach an agreement, then you can get that agreement made legally binding through consent orders. If you reach an agreement and you don't do it properly, then it's not legally binding, and someone can come after you later if you to get another bite of the cherry. So in this case, you really want to start a discussion about trying to divide it. Now, if one of the spouses here can't afford to pay the bills, right, and they can't survive, there is a mechanism in the court. It's called spousal maintenance, right? So if the other person has enough money and you are in financial need, you can apply to the court for spousal maintenance. Consider spousal maintenance as kind of child support for adults, right? Mm-hmm. So that way the court will examine the finances of the first person and the second person. If the second person clearly has enough left over at the end of the day, they'll order a periodic payment, so a weekly payment to the other person to pay their bills, to pay their expenses and stuff like that. So that's one avenue you can consider. Mm-hmm. You have to make that, there's time limits to make that. If you're in a de facto couple and you separate, you've got to do that within 2 years. If you're married, then you have to do that within 12 months of getting divorced. So the divorce is really the trigger in married relationships. So spousal maintenance is something probably to consider here. You can also give the utility companies a call, tell them you're going through financial hardship. They have some mechanisms there. Also with your loan and your mortgage and stuff like that, right? Banks have to consider financial hardship applications. And going through a divorce is a classic financial hardship criteria. So then they got to consider your loan and see if they can recapitalize it, give you more time and more breathing room. So that's kind of some thoughts I have for Norman in that situation. And so then child support as well. And so start off maybe, if there are children involved, legal aid is a great process because they provide a free service. Legal aid don't generally help you for the financial side of splitting the assets. So if you can't afford it, then potentially you need to go to a lawyer for the financial side of things.
All right. Norman, I hope that helped, mate. Thank you for your call today. It is 14 and a half minutes to 11 o'clock. Get your calls into Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal. 133 882. We'd love to hear from you. David's phone. Nick. G'day, David.
Yeah, g'day, guys. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you, mate.
Mate, so I just had a quick question. I had some roller shutters installed a few months back, and they botched up the installation and didn't finish it. Now, I've had a nightmare of a time trying to get them back to finish it. I haven't paid them the entire amount of money, so we're going on up to about 6 months now since this has happened. I'm just wondering if there's a statute of limitations am I still obligated to pay this outstanding amount, or what might happen there?
Oh, how much are they chasing you for? What's the leftover amount?
There's still $1,000 left to pay.
Okay, so they have 6 years to commence that against to recover that. Do you know how much it will cost you to get someone else to finish the job? Is it less than $1,000?
I don't know at this point. I haven't got another quote from someone else.
Okay, so I think so they have to, under Australian consumer law, they have to deliver their services with due care and skill. If they botched up the job, then you're entitled to compensation, right? So you're entitled to potentially the cost of how much it would cost you to have that job fixed and repaired by someone else, right? So if it's more than $1,000 you estimate it is, then you don't have to pay the rest of the $1,000 to them. The good news is because your claim is less than 10 grand, right? So that if they sue you, they'll only sue you for $1,000. They can't recover legal costs against you, which is a good thing. So you can stand your ground a bit. You can write to them and say that they've breached Australian consumer law, and maybe if you can get some quotes from other third parties to see what it would cost to repair them, and then you can use that as leverage to hold off on paying them $1,000. The other option is
great.
The other option is you can force them and go, look, finish the job. I want this repaired properly, then I'll pay you, right? So that's kind of something else to do as well.
Yeah, they just keep making appointments and they're not turning up, so it just keeps dragging on and on and on and on.
Yeah, so you want to get to the point where you make a decision where if you decide that after a reasonable time they haven't fixed it, you want to do something called terminating the contract. So you terminate the contract. You say you had a reasonable chance to rectify this, you haven't. Now I'm terminating, and I'm keeping the $1,000. I'm withholding the $1,000. I'm going to use that to find someone else to repair it. And if it costs you more than $1,000 to get someone else to fix the job, you can sue them. So just think about those options.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for calling us, mate. Hello, Mary.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
Fire away.
I've got 2 children, adult children living overseas, and I've got one living in Western Australia. And I'm just wondering, what type of lawyer would I need to go to update my will to reflect like any tax or any other issues that might come about having children living overseas and leaving money to them?
Okay, so any lawyer in Australia can help you out that's got experience in wills and deceased estates, because when you make a will, it applies to all of your assets around the world. The thing is, when it comes to any tax consequences about those 2 children living overseas, you want to speak to a lawyer that's based in that country just to give you some advice if there would be any problems or any tax consequences when assets in Australia are transferred overseas. You don't have any assets overseas yourself, do you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So I would, the will in Australia is perfectly valid if it's done by an Australian lawyer. It's just, you might have to take steps to engage a lawyer in that overseas country if you are concerned about their local laws.
Okay. Thank you for that. Just wondered where I was going with it.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary. One from Greg. Does defamation apply to the media? Well, my basic understanding it does, Greg. My best friend had his name and photos all through the West Australian paper 2 years ago. I suppose it doesn't really matter that it was the West necessarily. It could be any media publication. Lost his job, life placed on hold for 2 years, had his day in court. All charges, and there were nearly 40 of them, in front of judge and jury, all charges found not guilty. No story written about his outcomes. Could he say he was defamed?
Yeah, you can. So the thing with defamation is there is a tight 12-month deadline to lodge proceedings, right? So if you don't take steps within that 12 months, then you have to apply to the court to get permission to extend it. Now, in this case, Greg, his friend, was defamed 2 years ago, so that 1 year has expired. But if he went through the court system and he was fighting his charges, then that might be grounds to extend the time frame. So, but yeah, it definitely applies to media. If you are defamed, then you can write to any the media organisation. You set out that it's false.
So our listeners know, and so, I mean, you probably know this too, Nim, but we have extensive training around defamation and how we are able to broadcast against racial discrimination on grounds of sex, gender, religion, culture, whatever it is. We have a lot of training. I'd be really surprised if the paper would defame someone to that extent, because they would always use the term allegations. They would talk about being in court. I mean, the media are very, very careful with this. We're sort of pretty well drilled on this stuff.
That's right. So that's a great comment you made, right? So when it comes to defamation, if they just publish a story about this person is being charged, these are allegations only, well, that's probably not defamation because it's true, right? There's a defense of truth. But if they don't, sometimes, and you see this 10 years ago, sometimes you don't see, you see the word allegation more now. That's what really protects the media, right? But if they just said if they said something, and they probably wouldn't have, but if in a hypothetical situation they said this person did it or this person is this criminal, that would be defamation, right? So difference between allegation and actually saying the fact. So you're actually quite right there that if it all depends on the context, and it's so in most cases, if they did it properly, it's unlikely to be able to actually get up on that.
And it has a context of being satirical or involving satire. So the next hour I'm going to spend speaking to Mick Collis, and we will call each other names.
Yep.
And there'll be some of that will be based in truth, but it's a satirical context too, right?
That's right, satire. And what happens is the reasonable person has to understand that the person's reputation has been damaged, right? So when there's satire and you're being funny, people understand you're not actually saying factual statements about them, so their reputation can't get damaged.
Yeah, sure.
So a bit of tight one, and sometimes you see from time to time the media going, we apologise to John Smith on this article published the other day, right? So a lot of the time the media get in trouble if they misidentify the person, if they say, like, get the facts wrong. But if the facts are right, probably not.
We've had an SMS too from Dave. G'day, Dave. And I think this is similar to our earlier question. My parents have New South Wales power of attorney and guardianship in place. Are they valid in Western Australia? I think you may have answered this one.
So there is a process for, my understanding is that EPAs can, I believe so. I have to check. I believe there is a mechanism for enduring, because enduring powers of attorney are different to wills. My understanding is I believe that under the Act it can be, but the safest way is create a power of attorney under Australian WA law, because each state has its own laws, but I believe there is a mechanism for having interjurisdictional recognition. But I have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, no problems at all. All right, mate, thank you very much for coming in. Good to see you. And I've learned a little bit more about you today, that if I do outlive you, which I don't think I will, I'll know where to find your remains. They'll be... What state of America does this freezing thing? You've obviously looked into it.
Yeah, I don't remember the state, but it's one of... Yeah, there are about 300 people in Australia that are signed up, and it's called... There's one called Alcor, and there's a few others around. It's a bit crazy, but I'm like, well, you know, if modern medicine gets better, you might have a chance. It's probably not going to live forever. But
a long time to think about it too, Nick. You're young and healthy and fit. I'm sure it's just a thought bubble at this stage for you.
Yeah.
All right, mate. See you next week, hey?
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to our listeners. Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal.